When we think about iOS and Apple, all the different pieces and parts nurture each other. If you have an iPhone, you're more likely to get an Apple Watch or to use Apple software. Amazon's got a lot of these disparate businesses, and this week they have their annual reInvent conference in Las Vegas, their big AWS show. Amazon is the leader in cloud computing, but 1 year ago Thursday was the introduction of ChatGPT, and ever since, there has been a narrative that Amazon is behind in generative AI, that it doesn't have quite the story. And so today, as you guys mentioned, they released this Q workplace chatbot. If you're going to name it Q, you have to assume that's going to be able to espouse conspiracy theories, I guess. But it's their bid to compete with ChatGPT in the enterprise. And I think it's interesting. We'll have to see how good it is, but it has nothing to do with One Medical or the Ring doorbell. So this is a company. I remember one of the last quotes from Bezos in my first book, The Everything Store, was him saying we don't have a lot of advantages, so we have to weave a rope of smaller advantages. Like that, in some ways, back then, that book was published in 2013. It was all connected. I don't think that's true anymore.
Meaning they don't have the iOS ecosystem or the Android operating system.
No, they tried and failed
Microsoft.
with that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of these disparate businesses, and to the extent that there are connections, they're very light. Maybe that's to the company's credit. It certainly will make it easier to break the parts, to break the pieces apart if they ever have to do that one day.
Hello, Lena Khan.
Well, and it's also interesting. So they also did the announcement about making an update to their own chips that they are making. At the same time, they are kind of extending their collaboration with NVIDIA. Like, it does feel like they just kind of are everywhere.
Well, and that's something Google is doing as well. It's like keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And all these companies are totally dependent on NVIDIA for these graphic processors that are so important to generative AI. And yet the prices are extremely high, and NVIDIA can't supply the volume of chips that companies need to meet the demand. And so with Graviton 4 and the announcement Amazon made this week, it's this more long-term project of competing with NVIDIA and putting its own chips in its data centers to meet customer demand.
How do you think about Amazon for the future? Like, I don't know what your next book is on this company. But having said that, is it going to be, these businesses, but so much more still?
Well, look, I mean, they're very kind of strategically positioned in businesses that seem to show no signs of slowing down.
Yeah.
I mean, the great e-commerce revolution, we're 25 years into it, and as we just said, it's still growing 10% every year over Cyber
It's my
Week.
Default when I buy something.
Yeah, they're finding new ways to get us to, Friday night football, and the kinds of ads that they had, and the experimentation they're doing with advertising that leads to purchases. This is all like a green field for Amazon. And then on the cloud side, we're in the very earliest days of companies moving their operations to the cloud, using these AI tools. We have no idea how it's going to go. We might look back and think, this was very overhyped one day.
Yeah.
But certainly Amazon, like a lot of the other big tech companies, are positioning themselves for another phase of growth.